Yo, YouTube, what's going on? I'm back with another video. Don't mind that I have my actual video right here at the bottom. I will get to that in a second. So we have, and let me actually go ahead. Blackie speaks. The YN mindset is ruining society. Now, before we even start this video, I want to say the YN and the ghetto cultural things that have spawned out of the black community, and I'm not going to say that the black community pioneered this stuff. This stuff was CIA, in my opinion, and FBI oriented. It was given from the top down and put into our communities, and we was just the test dummies who embodied it and actually let it run our societies and our culture. And us being the pioneers of a lot of trends in the world, it's now gonna spread everywhere because we are the entertainment, I guess you could say, race. We are the race always making a fool of ourselves for money, always doing things on camera, always airing out our beefs on camera, doing all this messiness on camera, when we really ought to just be keeping that stuff off the internet and handling our business appropriately. But whatever. Let's just jump up into this video.
Now, if you're on certain spaces of TikTok and social media, I'm sure a lot of people have heard the term YN. Not to be confused with Young Ninja. YN stands for Young Nigga, which is a slang popularized by rap culture. The term is supposed to represent young black men, mostly teens, and is heavily associated with the image of a black face, often in connection with erratic behavior, which 99% of the time involves hurting people, whether that be stealing, robbing, or just being belligerent. However, this term is not defined by skin color. It's more a mindset that the new generation of young people are taking on. We're talking about children as young as 10 being influenced by the behaviors that come with this term, and they're mainly being influenced by it through different forms of media, social media being the main one. But we also have music, specifically rappers, promoting this way of showing up in the world. A lot of the violent behavior from young people being publicized on social media right now can be connected to this mindset as well. And in this video, I want to talk about why the YN mindset is slowly ruining society. Rapper King Von, who died back in 2020, might be the poster boy for this conversation, because Von was not only the physical representation of what the YN term is associated with, which is a black face, but King Von was also big on being a menace to society. That's what Von not only spoke about in his music, but he took pride in being the way he was. And then he got himself into an altercation in November 2020 and got himself killed. Now, Von is just one example out of many, but he was a famous rapper, so he managed to, at the very least, reap the rewards from operating this way. Through the means of making a bunch of money from his music, he gained a lot of notoriety, fame, and recognition during his short-lived career. And although Von isn't here anymore, his music continues to influence kids all over the world in a negative way.
You say you want to come ride with us?
Yeah.
What you gonna do though, like, if you get caught?
I ain't snitching.
Yeah, man, and you know the craziest part, bro? Like I said earlier on in the video, this hasn't been, it's getting really, really bad now because of the internet and kids being exposed to it. But I'm gonna be straight, completely honest with you. When I was in elementary school, I was just like this kid. Me and my homeboys, Nathaniel and DeAndre, shout out to y'all boys if y'all ever see this. We would walk around. We would sag our pants, bro. I remember us being in the elementary school bathroom. We peeing in the urinal, and we like, yeah, bro, don't pull your pants all the way off and then pee, you know, and so like you got to be like a thug when you pee, man, because you know I don't let my pants go all the way. Like, what are we talking about? We are elementary school kids, bro. Y'all are not no thugs. And then even when me and Roberto, we was over here bullying this guy Kadarius, of which it wasn't that we was bullying him. At that time, kid was calling himself, you know, or not calling himself, he was acting sus and all like weird and crap. And so we would clown him for it, but Kadarius was really the dude who everybody would clown. Like, everybody would beat him up. It was a time, I'm not gonna lie, like at Arch Creek, we all kind of jumped him. And now, speaking in hindsight, I'm like, damn, that was real messed up what we did as kids. But they just go to show, when you were young and you out here trying to be a thug and you just following trends, you'll do some horrible things. And I remember he called his old girl on us, and they was talking about, oh, we could get arrested and sent to juvie. And you know what I started doing? I started putting my hoodie over my head and moving like a whole straight criminal, looking at police cars. All real story, bro. I was like these kids.
Juvie. I actually went to juvie.
Yeah.
Teacher with scissors. And you can actually, I chased my teacher with scissors.
Yeah?
I chased my teacher with scissors and
Yeah.
I snapped her and then said, oh, you going to juvie for
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah, Keith, you gotta chill though, but that's not cool.
Huh?
It's not cool to be bad.
It is cool. You know why?
You heard him? You want to know why? because the girls, the women respect it. They see me with all them tats, they think I'm fine shit. They see me with the ice, they think I'm fine shit. And then I get respect, I get street cred. Now I'm in a gang. Now I'm telling you, bro, I was like that. When I was in elementary school, I know exactly. And I just had this conversation with my coworker when I was working night shift. When I was younger, bro, I was that YN. I get mad over simple things. I would fight anybody. I was out here, I like how I just said to y'all. I had all these females, Prince, this, that. I had girls that would literally come up to me, sit down on my hand, let me grab up on their booty, and they sit there, Prince, listen. As a young kid. And then when I changed, like when I got my butt whooped by my old boy, and I was like, man, I can't live that street life. I need to tighten up and I need to switch. Bro, we not ready to talk about that switch, bro. When you switch from being that YN and you stop being all hood and ghetto and stuff, like, yeah, you still might know the bad kids, but when you become a lame after doing all that stuff, bro, life was different, bro. The females ain't mess with you the same. Now you know you. Now you a nobody. Now it's like your aura's completely falling off, bro. That's what happened to me middle school year, bro. Anyways.
Why?
Cause I'm just trying to be like my idol,
Who your idol?
King Von.
What the?
Now that clip that I just played you, I thought was some kind of like skit when I, first came across it, but it's actually real. Here we have a young black boy around the age of 10 or 12 being asked about riding around with grown men on a robbery spree. He's bragging about having been to juvie, how he heard his teacher, and that King Von influenced him to be this way. And by the way, the title of this YouTube short, which is over 5 million views, is Crazy YN Chased His Teachers with Scissors. Now the question I had when I seen this video was, why is this adult male in the car making these suggestions to this kid? That's a whole nother issue, right? But this is something we don't talk about often enough. It's not just thousands. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of young people, maybe in the millions at this point, adopting a similar way of thinking, being, and moving. And sadly, most of them are young black teens. But then again, like we stated, it's not a race thing, but more of a cultural thing. We're gonna dive into that later. And for the more mature crowd watching this video, right, who may not be on social media or even have, let's say, young nephews, nieces, or children growing up in this, new age of social media, a lot of you guys might actually be confused and completely in the dark about this YN mindset that I'm talking about. Maybe this is the first time you're hearing about this. If that's the case and you enjoy this conversation so far, drop a like on this video, right? For others, especially all the younger people who watch this channel, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And then we have, people like myself kind of in the middle where I'm connected to it in a lot of ways and I see what's happening, but obviously I'm old enough to have enough sense to know how dysfunctional it is for society in general. First, we got to get clear about one thing, which is the YN term is a term that propagates a negative stereotype of black boys. For most people who know about this term and what it means, when they think about it, what probably pops up in their mind
is niggas with shiesties, bruh. Niggas with shiesties. And like how he's saying, this video probably gonna be 40 minutes. And I'm sorry about it. But this is a Bible verse, bro. And I know I don't be trying to be too spiritual on this channel, but I remember not too long ago reading about that because I was reading the Bible. I was going through this online ministry. I have kind of been slack with all my reading and praying and things of that nature. And I still see this, and all I can think about is, bro, it's prophecy, bro. Like, this is how you know we living in the end times, for real. You have kids, and this goes even to when I was a kid. Like, we had some real bad kids growing up and all this and that. And even Boondocks was talking about these kids slapping their mama doing it. But anyways, we real life got kids growing up thinking that this shit is cool. And the real messed up part is that when they finally do start coming into they grown man body, they start growing to be 6'4", 6. Like, bro, you should have been playing ball or something. Like, you should have really been out here being something for your peoples. Because I'm gonna be real, I know how it is, bro, to just sit on your talents. You have athletic abilities, you have good ways to make content, you have all kinds of things. But instead, you just want to follow the crowd. You want to have females. And I'm gonna be honest, I was in that boat too. Where it's like, bro, I just want to have females. Like, I just want to be able to do this and do that, and yeah, bam, bam, and like, it's an immature way of thinking, but that's just the community in the black culture, bro. Like, that's what we embody, kid. It's literally in our movies and all our TV shows and music and all this. So, and like I told y'all, it's not that we wanted to do this. It's not that we just started it out of nowhere. It was a target. It was a ploy that hit us from the drug war, the hip hop industry. You know, these people that Kanye was talking about, or who own those labels. That's what happened for real. Them, because we are a chosen people. But I'm not even going to get into that for real. But the way how this evil world has flipped us upside down, they made us the clowns and the hiss and the byword. That's what the Bible says about us. That people are going to see us and they're going to shake their head and hiss their teeth, like suck their teeth, like. And that's what we watching, bro. And it said that the women are going to birth monstrous children. And that's what we are literally watching, bro. Anyways, let's get up.
Visually is a young black teen with a ski mask, maybe accompanied with a Glock 45, robbing people and being a menace.
Switches.
And that's something I personally think is a problem, right? It shouldn't be like that, but obviously it is, and there's some reasons behind it, and we're going to get into that later on. Now, the term to me isn't actually the issue, as crazy as it sounds, because if it stopped at just being words, there wouldn't be anything to talk about. The biggest problem is the mindset behind it and the energy it carries. For anyone who's heard the term YN, you've also probably heard crash out.
Yeah,
crash out is more of a mainstream way of describing when someone completely loses control, acts off emotion, ego, or pain with no thought for the consequences that may follow. I think Duke Dennis, who's a popular streamer, he explained it perfectly.
Crashing out is making a decision in a split second that could throw your whole life away. That's what crashing out is. Crashing out is, I'm ready to die about. I'm ready to go to jail about.
Yeah.
Right now, whole time the situation is not even worth.
Not even that deep.
And shout out to Duke Dennis for the very proper explanation. In other words, you lose all logic and reasoning and let your emotions guide you towards an action that completely messes up your whole life when it could have been avoided. And these two terms, YN and crashing out, they're very connected. One of them, crash out, describes a general way of behaving without taking the person into account. So crash out can be about just about anybody, right? It can be about someone who's 15 years old, or it can be about someone who's 85 years old. YN is, however, catered towards the younger generation. And like we stated, it's often associated with young black teens. Now the question is, what is considered YN behavior? Well, let's put it like this, right? Anything that's reckless, belligerent, and violent. So let me give a few examples, right? Smash and grabs are a prime example of this. Back in 2020, specifically around the time of the 2020 riots, we saw a spike in a very specific type of crime, and it was called smash and grabs. Smash and grabs, for anyone who doesn't know, is a term that describes a type of crime where a bunch of people run into a store, most times being a designer clothing store or a place where they have expensive jewelry, computers, etc. They break the windows, they run inside, take a bunch of shit, and they just dip, right? A lot of this was happening in the major cities in the US like New York, Los Angeles, etc. I think a lot that was happening can be connected to the things that were going on politically during that time, yes, but I think the pandemic and COVID-19 was a turning point for sure. I don't know about you, but I noticed how humans became way more, disconnected from each other after 2020 like that, overall, and the way we interacted with each other as humans, right? But also what people were willing to do to others as far as hurting their fellow human beings. So with that shift, I noticed, and maybe you noticed this as well, I noticed how a lot of crimes were becoming way more vicious. You started hearing more and more about old people getting beat up and robbed. Gang violence became way more intense in communities all over the world, and kids started getting caught in the middle of it more often. People started having less and less concern for each other, and individualism, I would say, is at an all-time high right now, especially after 2020. But around 2020, this thing called smash and grabs became a common occurrence. Some of y'all might have seen a lot of those videos of a bunch of teens running inside a store, let's say a clothing or electronic store, stealing a bunch of clothes, laptops, and iPhones.
Hey, you better. Hey, man, you ain't got on a shiesty mask, boy. You better go ahead and just walk up out the pawn shop. Because when the cops come to interrogate you, I'm just like that. I'm either out of the way, or like they run past me. Yeah, just let me get on up out of here, man. Y'all boys, y'all be safe, man. Because I'm paranoid like that. I start feeling like cops finna come up after me, even though I'm just watching and stuff. Now you are a witness. So now, if they come find you, now they need you to say, all right, so you watched as they did. Describe them. How tall were they? What did they wear? Are there any discernible features? Like, nah, bro. I'm not trying to see that. Let me just go on about my business. I seen a dude get robbed before. I was walking with my homegirl. We was out just chilling. Out of nowhere, a whole dude got robbed by like 50 dudes. I don't know what amount of bread that dude took out the ATM, but they had him on his knees and everything. I was just like, wow. And it happened in the white neighborhoods too. That's how I knew shit was just crazy.
And sometimes they arrive in, big ass groups, right? All ski masked up, looking like Pooh Shiesty.
Sunday, a group of thieves stole from the Nike store in East LA.
Yep.
We are blurring their faces here because they appear to be juveniles. And last week, a flash mob robbery occurred at the Americana at Brand, one of developer Rick Caruso's properties. He says despite their sophisticated security systems and armed guards, it still happened.
And sometimes they arrive by themselves, like this man at this Apple store, and they, clean out the whole spot.
Yup. And the craziest part, the police car is right there. Where are the police? But that's what happened, bro.
Not
when
only
you
did he
defund the
clean out the
cops.
whole spot of all their iPhones, put all the phones in his boxers, but he did all that and literally walked past a police car. If that ain't talent, bravery, and confidence in one, I don't know what is. But all jokes aside, right? This is what people associate a YN with. And although the image that pops up in people's heads is a black male or teen rocking a Pooh Shiesty ski mask, let's focus on the behavior itself, because that's what we're talking about. The YN mindset is a way of behaving, operating, and seeing the world. You don't think the consequences of your actions will catch up to you. Like this clip of this white kid talking a bunch of trash to a police officer and getting manhandled.
Get off of the seat. Okay, take off the seat. Yeah. Let me get your ID. You ain't gonna get shit. Okay. Take it off in your seat. Well, what you laughing for? I'm writing your shit. Take it off.
And we're gonna cut it right there because YouTube is very strict these days. Okay, let's just say that the end result was the young man begging for mercy.
He took it off of him. This is why, bro. I'm not gonna lie with you. If I'm a police officer, kid, hey.
On the ground, okay? Now, rap music has been a huge proponent of pushing the normalization of the YN mindset. And this is something I've spoken about on here for years in different contexts. We've seen countless young rappers crashing out for absolutely no reason, whether it's home invasions turned deadly in the TK case, or killing one of the most famous drill rappers at the time, Pop Smoke, when you're only 15 years old. That's a concoction of crash out and YN behavior. And you often see memes about this kind of thing, but I've yet to see an actual real conversation about what's created this phenomenon and why it needs to be abolished. We're talking about young people in large amounts, acting reckless, belligerent, hurting people in the process without any regard for how it's going to affect their lives and others. And it's also not that the older generation, let's say the 80s babies, weren't on demon time during the crack era. Okay?
Yeah, they had
obviously
Dennis
were,
the
just ask your
Menace and
parents.
stuff
It's
like
just that we
that,
keep on seeing more recklessness and more innocent people getting caught in the middle of it. And a lot of this is being televised to an entire generation of young children through social media. And the number one, commonality that I've observed in this type of behavior is structure or lack thereof. Often we see this type of behavior in society, either in your own backyard or in close proximity to you or the people you love. You'll notice how a lot of these young boys, right, specifically young boys, because young girls aren't out here like putting on ski masks and like robbing stores.
Bro, you'd be surprised. It's different for the young girls because some of them, I'm not even gonna say some of them, it'd be the studs that'll run around with these dudes to do that. But our females are crash outs too. And their version of crashing out isn't always necessarily doing crimes. Their version of crashing out be like they boyfriend, they boyfriend having arguments with them or something. So now they just gonna trash his house. They gonna do this. They have that as well. It's just in a different form. And they'll set you up. They'll, get you beat up. They'll all this and that. And they won't have no care and no regard. They don't feel anything at all. They think you deserved it, and then they'll be looking at you like you're weird and you're this and you're that. So they have it as well, but it's just not to the degree of they're not the ones running in the stores to steal stuff. Some might, but yeah.
Right? Most times they're not. In 99% of the cases, they're not, right? You'll notice how a lot of these young boys come from fatherless households, and 9 times out of 10, they were most likely raised by a single mother. A lot of times we also see another thing, which is they either come from an impoverished background. If not that, at the very least, we're talking about a working class background. And here's the thing. What happens when a father is absent in a lot of cases? Well, according to the studies, this has been very well documented. They say the following. Research shows when a child grows up in a father-absent home, he or she is 4 times more more likely to live in poverty, more likely to suffer emotional and behavioral problems. Children of single mothers show higher levels of aggressive behavior than children born to married mothers. And number 4 is very major because it kind of goes hand in hand with this topic, and that is more likely to go to prison. 1 in 5 prison inmates had a father in prison. And then at number 5, which is very, very, very important for this topic, more likely to commit crime. Study of juvenile offenders indicate that family structure significantly predicts delinquency. Number 8, we have more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. And then at number 10, we have 2 times more likely to drop out of high school. Now, obviously, not every single teen who comes from this type of background ends up committing brazen crimes or acts belligerent or shows a lack of self-control in spaces occupied by others, right? And the question is, why is that? Well, there's a couple angles to this. First of all, a big one that's not emphasized is personality. You can come from the worst conditions and have every single obstacle against you known to mankind. If you're not naturally inclined to be this type of person, you're not going to put on a mask and start robbing old folks, right? And on the other hand, you can come from a household of love, 2 loving parents. You know, your name could be Clarence, and if you find the idea of being a menace to society appealing, then that's the path you're going to go down. And then we of course have a mix of this along with environmental influences, which we'll touch on later. Aside from that, another aspect of this is back in the day, there used to be this thing called a rite of passage, something you did that marks the transitional phase of your life into adulthood. And this rite of passage added a layer of accountability to them as people, and it set a precedent that said you're now responsible for your own life, so act accordingly. Nowadays, we don't have any of that. Culturally, things are less structured. I mean, this young new generation doesn't really even know how to follow authority. Just take a look at what's happening with teachers and their students now.
Disrespect from students. In the 3 years that I've been teaching, I've been...
It's terrible now.
Countless times I've been called fat. I've been called
They're not really lying.
A lot of the young people from this generation think that following basic instructions like sit down.
Bro, it's scary. It really is. I got uncles and aunties that are teachers. I have friends, neighbors, family members. I already said family members, and they all have the same experiences. I'm telling you, bro, you go on to the news sometimes, like that guy who the teacher took away this kid's Nintendo Switch. The kid ran out the class to run after her, start beating her up, nearly beat her to death. And here it is, there's so many laws within the United States where teachers can't even do nothing. I at some point in time wanted to become a substitute teacher because, you know, that's everybody's little cool fallback job in high school. You think to yourself like, yeah, I'll be that cool sub who I'm gonna hide the work and I ain't gonna do this. I'm gonna just be chilling with y'all. But then you try to do that, and then let's say you do it in one of these schools where you just got nothing but crash outs. You got these kids that just want to mock you all the time and ridicule you, and you're just like, well, you know what? That's very lame, Thomas. I know you actually come from a good household, or I know you ain't got no food when you go home, and now you out here in the back and forth with the kid, and the kid he ain't got nothing to lose because he know that nothing's really gonna happen to him for real. If he commit a crime, they just gonna send him a juvie, and it'll be a small misdemeanor or whatnot, but he ain't gonna have no real issue. But if you put your hands on that kid, it's over. You can't teach no more. You can't this. You can't that. So it's like it's a nightmare. It's living in the battlefield. You're really in the battlefield with no gun. You're just walking around with your hands up like, hey, please don't shoot me. Come on. Anyways.
Or put your phone down is a sign of disrespect. A lot of the youth who adopt this Hawaiian mindset actually come from loving households. They didn't have to worry about missing meals or going to sleep without a blanket, only, showering with cold water, sleeping on the floor, eating rice and beans, you feel me? A lot of them have been spoiled to the point where consistency in their household or outside suddenly turns into a prison, which is why they're often looking for excitement in the outside world. And that excitement leads them down a road where they start acting out in ways that not only put themselves in danger, but the rest of us that want nothing to do with any of this. And a lot of the young boys who fall into this category, right, of kind of having this Hawaiian mindset, a lot of them just have no identity. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want in life. They don't know where they're actually going. And it doesn't help that they don't have any real life positive and tangible influences around them as a symbol for what they can become. On top of that, as soon as they head over to Instagram, their algorithm is pushing all this low-life behavior content in front of them. Whether it's people acting out in public and fighting, or things like videos of people who look just like them, white, black, purple, not color specific, terrorizing innocent people by being belligerent, ruthless, and a menace to society. And that validates their way of living, and it plans to see that then normalizes this way of living in their mind. When you're spending more time with a screen that's made to program...
Is he with them or what? Now they pulled him along like, nigga, you gotta come with us now.
Your mind in a negative way than with real people. Is it really a surprise that so many of these young kids are turning out this way? I don't really think so. And speaking of the identity thing, because I think this is worth hitting on a little more. I think this is the core of the issue, actually. Notice how a lot of the, in this case, the YNs who fall in this category, right? They tend to roll in packs. Now, why is it that people who exude this, I'm a savage mindset don't have the confidence to walk in the streets by themselves? You're supposedly this...
That's the thing, bro. I'm sorry for pausing so much, but this really real life gets me political, bro. Like, this real life opens up that like intellectual brain where I have to talk sometimes, and now I kind of want to have a serious conversation with like my girlfriend or any of these other people, just to kind of talk to them and say like, yo, I'm seeing this shift and all that. But yo, for real, the reason why they must roll in packs is because it goes like this. You might have that mentality. Your friends, because they're your friends, might also have similar pieces, but then y'all put it together, and then now you understand that there's strength in numbers. Because now if you got more people in your group, your gang, now you could take over some little small guy's gang, or y'all could run up and beat up this dude, do that. It was never about being a crash out YN dude by yourself. Like, there's instances where one guy would do it, but he probably got a getaway driver that's ready to just drive off if he get up into the whip or like, something. But it was never about just doing these activities on an individual standpoint. Like, it's always been about getting into gangs, getting into drug wars, getting into, gang grand theft and all these other stuff. Like, that's always what it's been about. And unfortunately, a lot of these black boys, they have very similar backgrounds. They ain't got dad in the crib. And if they do got dad in the crib, dad putting his hands on everybody in the crib. He beating up everybody. He hitting their old girl. He going to jail. He's selling dope. He's doing... I can personally tell y'all, and it's a blessing and it's honestly a calling from God that I didn't follow that path. But I seen stuff like this, bro. I've witnessed this in my life. I've seen dope. I've seen, people with bread who from just trapping. I've heard of people getting arrested for gun charges, for having an illegal firearm, for sometimes shooting, killing. I knew some people that was in my neighborhood that was getting locked up for things like rape, getting locked up for grand theft, murder charges. And trust me, I've seen. And to honestly grow out of that stuff, I really just chop it up to being God, bro. That's all I could say. God and my family. Them telling me like, yo, this ain't it. And then that one interaction I had with my old boy where he beat me when I was on that time, where I was actually like, oh man, this, that, all that. Man, I don't respect authority. I don't respect teachers. And when I got that whooping that day, bro, it changed my whole life. Like, I was like, bro, I can't do this no more. That's what we need. Our young men, our young black men need guidance. It's like that even with our young, beautiful sisters out here. Like, they need guidance. There is no positive reinforcement. There are no good role models. We literally turn on the TV and we are looking at streamers just crashing out, destroying each other's houses. Or we're looking at influencers being infidels, cheating, always talking about fine shit. That's literally what's growing our culture. That's growing our young kids. And then we wonder why we're so cooked, why life seems so doomed. Like, anyway.
Tough guy who likes to prey on a weak, and you'll beat up anybody who tests you, and you love to cause ruckus in the streets, but you don't have enough cojones to go outside by yourself. Let me tell you why that is. It's because a lot of these young men don't have an identity. They find their sense of security in the group because they don't have a sense of themselves. And the only time they can be themselves is when they're around a pack of 13 other YNs who think just like them. That's how they feel safe being them. They don't have any home training. They don't know what it means to conduct themselves in a public setting and be one with their environment. They're loud, they're aggressive, and they're repelling, honestly. So a lot of this stems from not knowing who they are, a lack of identity. And the natural response to that, rebellion, validated by the approval of the group. So their way of belonging is by being posted up with others who they feel have the same mission as them. The only oxymoron is the mission is obviously dysfunctional and it adds no value to society at all. And the thing is, there's a reason why a lot of these young men are so quick to crash out, catching felonies through stealing, robbing, and in some cases even taking a life. We've seen that in hip-hop, right? To them, catching a charge or crashing out, that's not a loss to them because they never felt like they even had a real place in society to begin with. If you're someone who, let's say you're in this demographic of people who could fall into this, the thing that's kind of gonna sway you from moving, all crazy and crashing out and being a YN, right? It's seeing the other paths that are available for you to walk in. Let's say you have a hobby you're passionate about. Maybe you like to sing, rap, write music, paint, health and fitness. Maybe you want to be the next Kai Cenat. Actually, don't try to be the next anybody. Just be you, right?
Yeah,
or you're in
just be
trading school,
yourself.
medical school, or you just graduated high school and you have plans to do something with your life. It's the options that are available for you that's going to make you not want to throw your life away by adopting the YN mindset and crashing out. The reality is there's a lot of young people these days who've given up. A lot of these are young men, sadly. And a lot of them, they lock themselves in the basement. They don't participate in life. They get hooked on drugs, alcohol, pornography. They play too much video games, whatever. They hate the world. They hate themselves. They hate women especially. And they're not willing to do anything to change their situation. And yes, there's something to be said about why a lot of those, young men are in those particular situations. But obviously, crashing out ain't really going to solve anything. That's what we're talking about here, right? And then what happens a lot of times in a situation like that is they get involved in the wrong crowd, and then a bunch of people with no identity come together and cause a bunch of chaos that we have to deal with in our communities. So it's on us to clean it up, because when one of these YNs robs an 80-year-old lady and she slips and hits her head and dies, that's unnecessary pain and suffering that people in our communities have to deal with. Energetically and spiritually, there's something that happens to you as a human being when other humans around you are grieving. That energy gets transferred to the rest of the community and it lowers the frequency of the environment around you. I'm talking people walk around more anxious that it could happen to one of their loved ones or them. And I'm talking about, let's say, one of these YNs, doing something that leads to someone in a particular community dying, and then that kind of feeds into the community. That's what I'm talking about, right? People start walking around tense, guarded, doubting that their fellow humans have some kind of agenda when all they're doing is being polite or helpful, and that becomes the new normal. That's how distrust in society among people is created. And not to make this about money, right? But it does cost the government when tragedies happen. And a few examples of that, well, number one, emergency medical care for victims of violence. That is funded by the taxpayers, us. So it by default becomes a public burden. Number two, the police actually has to investigate the crimes, which that's an expense. And something that's kind of connected to this, which is, the average cost, and that's number three, the average cost of housing a juvenile in a detention center in the United States is over $200,000 a year. Did you know that? I didn't really know that. That's news to me, right? So when that 17-year-old young boy decides to catch a felony charge by popping somebody, right, or like doing some crazy, that's the price we gotta pay for what he did. And also, number four, okay, let's not forget things like increasing cost of insurance in high crime neighborhoods. And number five, and also this is a big one, businesses taking their companies elsewhere and leaving the areas where, these, in this case, these YNs are terrorizing, right? And obviously it ain't just YNs, doing all this crazy stuff. That's what we're focusing on in this video, obviously, okay? So you get it. And then something that's connected to number five, and I'm sure some of y'all have heard about this, right? Which is, haven't y'all heard what's happening to so many like specifically like black communities in America, whether it's Walmart, Target, or any other major chain that fuels the economy of said neighborhood? A lot of them are leaving these black neighborhoods, and they're leaving a lot of these neighborhoods because a lot of people are stealing, and they're losing so much money to the point where it's not even profitable for them to actually stay in these neighborhoods, right? And it's a shame that regular folks who aren't a part of all this craziness and all this chaos have to deal with this, and they don't have the funds to move, so they get affected, right? So it's really unfortunate how this is particularly affecting black neighborhoods all over America. A very small minority of our melanated brothers and sisters are, they're just honestly fucking it up for so many people, man. Like, I don't know what other way to put it. And obviously, like, most people aren't on this. Like, it's a very, very small minority of people like who are doing this, right? And I know it might feel like this conversation has taken a little bit of a turn, but I think all this is connected and it goes deeper than just a couple YNs. I'll be honest with y'all too, like I don't know if this is gonna get better. Like, are things actually gonna get better? Because to me it feels like the younger generation is getting more belligerent as the years go by. It feels like social media has done a number on their mind, and the algorithms are validating this messed up way of thinking and operating. And there's so many forms of media that are just feeding into the dysfunction as well. If you ask me, I think what we need more of is strong parents, leadership, guidance, structure, you name it. I think that's the medicine to a lot of the issues we've discussed in this video. However, the sad part is someone can grow up having all these things and more, but end up like this. We've seen it in so many different examples. A good example is T.I.'s son, King Harris. He's probably the best example of someone who had every advantage in the book, but still ended up trying to appear as a thug, a gangster, you know, someone who's about it. So there's no guarantees that someone ends up the right way. I know so many parents who've actually done their best, but their kids ended up catching felonies, murder charges. I mean, I know so many parents personally who they did actually do their best, but their kids still ended up catching felonies, murder charges, you name it. I guess in the end, all you can do is just do your best as a parent and hope for the best. Overall, it's also a community thing if you ask me. We as people, we have to make sure that our respective communities don't get destroyed by this type of behavior. We all got to make sure that we try to hold each other accountable as much as possible, and we actually protect our communities. That's one of the most important things that I think that we as people, we can do. Anyway, if you made it this far, drop a little like on this video for the algorithm. If you're new here, my name is Blackie Speaks, Digital Handshake, okay? Nice to meet you, and subscribe if you want to hear more from me, okay, moi. Hope y'all
I definitely enjoyed, man. I know that I'm not going to be able to inspire change. Well, I might, but like I just said, with all that rambling, guys, gals, if you're a young black man, young black woman, or even you're Caucasian, it doesn't matter what you are. If you're a young man, young woman, please don't fall into that mindset of being a crash out. I know it seems like there's no reward for being a good person in life. Trust me. Even with songs like Saturn by SZA, where she's talking about the young die young and poor, or the good die young and poor, and stuff like that. Like, I get it. It seems like you're going to be a walking lick, and at times you're not going to be as popular, you're not going to be as cool, you're not going to have as many women, you're not going to have all these things. But it pays in the end to be a good person, bro. It pays to not be on that crash out energy. You could still have some street about yourself and still choose not to do the wrong thing. Like, make it your mission not to be another statistic, because that's how you got to really look at it for real. There's somebody who was somewhere, whether you want to say it's your CIA agent, whether it's a police officer somewhere, whoever, even if you want to say it's the devil, who has your name, and they betted the day that you were born that you was going to end up in jail, she was going to end up dead, she was going to end up doing some horrific things. You got to see that as your ops and be like, I'm not going to follow that mentality. If you need to get ghetto because you need to fight somebody because somebody's trying you, not in terms of like they just calling you garbage at basketball or something, but like you genuinely out with maybe your homeboys, you genuinely out with your girlfriend, and then some dude just come up and press you, hey, yo, what's good? All right, then you handle that. But don't be to the degree where like you are joining these groups just to be a nuisance to society, just to attack people, just to do this, just to do that. You have so much identity within yourself. You have so much potential within yourself. Don't minimize it by doing illegal crimes. Don't minimize it by just doing all these things to help mitigate how your emotionalism feels. And it's all right to go to therapy and sometimes to seek a parental figure to help you out of bad times and dark times. And that's just all I wanted to say. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.